Hi, this is Louie X, and thanks for listening to my podcast. All kinds of interesting clips here, and I hope you enjoy them. Mystery stalks my dreams at night.
So we got signed. You go back to California, and I guess you celebrate and stuff, and then you come back. Is that and then we did that. We did our first record with Nietzsche over at A&R Recordings, right?
Yeah, in New York.
Yeah. Now, what were your thoughts when we first went into that studio and started working?
I thought it was a very big room.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I would say. It's like a gymnasium. How can you get a good sound?
Well, yeah.
Did you know the history of that place? Because I didn't at that time.
Yeah, well, apparently it's like they do like orchestras and big full movie soundtracks, all kinds of stuff went on in that place, you know.
But one of the guys who owned that is like a huge record producer, Phil Ramone.
They played Moondance for me, and they said that was recorded there.
Yeah, it had a huge reputation. I remember. I didn't know that. What was your impression of Nietzsche when Jack Nietzsche first came down?
Go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah, I thought he was really cool when we first met him, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew all about him from his old records and Phil Spector and the Stones,
right,
and Neil Young, so I knew his history, but...
Yeah, I was impressed, too.
And he was pretty nice, He was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Until he got us to L.A.
He became an asshole.
So we
got to L.A. He was fine in New York.
Yeah, well,
you got him in L.A.
Bobby, I wanted to just get your impressions when we went into the studio and you met Jack Nietzsche and all of that. What was going through your mind?
I was pretty excited, to tell you the truth, because I knew Nietzsche's history. I knew where he came from. I knew that he had a lot to do with the first couple of Buffalo Springfield records, which I really liked. And I also was trying to pick his brain. I took him to dinner one night, find out where he was at with everything. Basically, he said, "What are you doing with these guys?"
What did he mean by that?
He really meant, "What are you doing with Willie?" He said, "You should be making film music. You should be writing music. This doesn't seem to be the kind of music that you're going to play forever." He laid it right on the line, okay? He just saw through everything, okay?
Well, refresh my memory on that first record, because I seem to remember that actually being kind of a nice recording process. It wasn't as crazy as L.A., was it?
No, L.A. sucked.
But
we'll
the
talk about that one in the next segment.
But the first
that first recording session with Jack Nietzsche.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that bugged me was like some of the engineers that were working on it. They were just excruciatingly time-consuming with some guy banging on the bottom of my drum, and it says, "No, man, let me do it."
Right.
No, we got to go like this. And I said, No. Just let me take the wrinkles out of the top skins, and no. And but I was so far down in the mix anyway that it didn't really matter.
Was that Kim King?
That was Kim King.
Yeah. Well, do you know that I found out after talking to Kim that I had seen him perform? Do you remember this group Lothar and the Hand People?
Yeah.
He was in that group. I thought he was Lothar, actually, but it turned out Lothar was the actual... They had a theremin synthesizer where you stick through this loop, and it makes those kind of...
like spaceship.
Yeah, spaceship sounds. And Lothar was actually the machine. That's what he told me. So that was kind of interesting to find out that I sort of recognized his face when we walked in there, and he was doing the engineering. But we did that record in about 2 weeks, right? Something like that. It didn't
take long.
Yeah.
We went. I think the rhythm tracks were done in like a week.
Right.
Easily.
And that had some of our best material: Mixed Up, Shook Up Girl, Cadillac Walk.
Yeah, and there was stuff
Can't
we've
Do
been
Without
doing
It.
for a while too.
Right.
Which was good.
Now, did Willie?
I mean, Cadillac Walk's the only really new song that we're doing.
Right. And I remember when Nietzsche brought that in, and he played it with Moon Martin on the acoustic guitar. and Martin had this kind of squeaky voice, and I remember thinking, man, I don't want to do this song. But then we fooled around with it and really gave it some power, because I remember that.
Oh, and that's on the Hell's Angel Jukebox in Oakland.
What's on the flip side?
I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out, huh?
But it is a 45, and I never had a copy of it.
Now, did you guys get a chance to talk to Jack Nietzsche at all while he was there, in terms of just hanging out with him at all?
Not much.
Yeah, he had some good Stone stories. I remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to him much. He always just come up and just play dumb. And says, I'm already playing dumb.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
Play dumb. You told me to play dumb.
When we did Venus of Avenue D, he was in the middle of doing like an orchestra. You know what I mean? He was going, go up, go down.
Right.
I thought that was kind of cool.
I actually liked him, too. I thought, he had some pretty good ideas in terms of trying to change things around a little bit and not getting too involved. But what I did find ridiculous, and this was funny, was he came over to me. I was talking about something, and he says he was telling me about his black belt in karate or something. But then I found out that he was afraid to go out of his hotel like between sessions, like New York scared him too much.
That's why I didn't want. That's why I wanted to do that second record in L.A.
Yeah, and I thought, Jesus Christ, you're bragging to me about your black belt in karate. And I'm saying, look at us. We walk the streets all the time. We're no black belts. So that was kind of funny.
I remember him telling Willie that, he was saying, those guys, they don't understand those old tunes, like 50s rock. He thought we were like just these punk rockers.
Oh, really? He actually said that?
And Willie would say, no, these guys are really into that stuff,
Yeah. So that record was done, and then that actually was really what got us on the map.
That's what got Mink, deVille et al. On the map.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still pissed off we didn't do Saturday Night Live. I think that would have changed it.
Now, wasn't it? What happened there? I never got the full story. I know we were supposed to do it, right?
Yeah, we were asked to do it.
And what happened? Whose idea?
I remember being with Chris and Willie, and Willie saying he didn't want to do it because he didn't think it was cool enough.
And then he
goes
on. Then he goes on a year later with his really shitty band and looks like an idiot. He would have been.
That was the thing. It was an artist thing. Like if you did that show, you were like too commercial. Yeah, that's exactly what we want.
Oh my God.
But
Well, you guys were you guys
at the time? I thought, it was a bad decision, but I didn't think it would be, that drastic because I felt, the album would
it would have been fun
anyway.
Man,
but now I see that it would have done so much better if it had gone on.
It would have been. It would have. I mean, that
probably sold 1 million copies.
Yeah, mainly because number one, I think those guys really appreciated us. I remember John Belushi had come down a couple of gigs of ours.
He did.
Yeah. I remember him being on acid, and it's like I was afraid to talk.
I remember talking to John a couple of times, and then when he met Willie, I said, "Oh yeah, man, I remember you, man. I've seen you on TV before."
Yeah.
And Belushi goes, "I don't need this rock star shit."
Right.
I remember that vividly to this day. Yeah. I was right there watching him do it, and I couldn't be more embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because the guy made a point to come down and almost invite us to be on the show.
Exactly.
He was a fan,
He was a real fan.
But Willie turned him right off, man. And, I don't know. I never really worried about money except for when we got signed. I thought we were all going to be millionaires. But, like, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, like I told you the last time, it says, I just like doing it because I like doing it, man,
Yeah.
Well, after the first record, how could we miss?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Until we saw Willie on the cover.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of the end right there, man.
I knew that was coming a long time ago.
Yeah.
What about was making music,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that point, man.
I don't know.
I never really realized it was a Willie show until then. You know, I remember reading something from you, Bob, about like, like asking Chris Evans, "Hey man, where's my, my scale for these recording sessions?" I never got none of that money either.
Yeah, we got paid.
We got paid for the recording session. Yeah, you did, Manfred. You had to have.
No.
Yeah, we
at the beginning of the year.
No, we got that front money.
No, we got checks for that. I remember that. That reminds me of a funny story, though.
That's really funny because I don't remember none of that.
Well, listen to this.
Hysterical to me. You guys got paid and I did.
No, you did. You did, Manfred. I'm sure you did.
Put that Coke spoon down.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's where it went.
Chris once got me a job. I think it was playing some guitar on Cat Stevens' brother's demo or something.
Oh,
and Chris told me when you go in there, ask for double scale. So I figured Chris knew what he was talking about, Yeah. So I went in there and asked for double scale. They looked like they were going to throw me out of the room. It was. So I just backed up. I said, all right, never mind.
That's so funny, man. Oh, man.
So, Bobby, how did you end up getting in this band anyway?
I moved from Vermont to New York after my marriage failed, and I stayed with a guy by the name of Larry Rosenblum. And at that point, I started doing open night mics all over town, doing my own stuff. During the daytime, I'd walk up to the Ansonia, because they had a lot of practice rooms, spend all afternoon practicing with my boombox. And at night, I'd hop on a subways and go to all the open mic nights, do 20 minutes here, 25 minutes there. And one of the places that I was doing pretty good at was the Other End, Paul Colby's Other End. Mm-hmm. And weekly, actually, I was down there about 3 or 4 times in a month, and they asked me to open for somebody, and I don't even remember their name as who it was, and I thought, hey, my first real gig. Next thing I know, Larry Rosenblum introduced me to Eve Moon. And Eve was a friend of Willie's. She happened to mention to him that Willie needed a keyboard player. And I'd been reading the Village Voice, and I knew that Minks were happening at that point in time, getting a lot of press, and I figured, well, I'll try this. I figured it'd be 7, 8 steps up the ladder at that point in my life. So I auditioned with you guys, and the rest is history, really.
You lived at Chris's place, too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember us getting the place, but that's about it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Me and Reuben stayed there for quite a while.
Yeah, we had the fur locker.
And, I made a real big point of, disabling the lock so nobody would lock my dumb ass in there, man.
That was
needed some jackhammers to get out of that sucker, man. It was 4 feet of concrete and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
During part of the recording, didn't we stay in Midtown somewhere, a broken down hotel?
We did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had that room.
Well, I'm glad I had it.
After the New York County Sheriff, those famous, who's that famous, the slumlord babe, who are those
Oh,
guys?
Leona Helmsley?
Yeah, they were the landlords of that place, and one day I came home, and I don't know if Reuben, you were there too, and the New York County Sheriff, or New York City Sheriff, or the County Sheriff, they had guns on, man, they were packing all our shit in boxes saying, get out, man, because Chris didn't pay the rent. I'm going, wait a minute, what happened to all this money I gave you, man? You don't remember that?
No.
You don't remember getting kicked out? That's when we ended up in those cheap hotels. They got evicted.
Okay. I guess it was just a minor detail in those days, right?
Well, not really, because we just got all this money from Capitol Records, and I thought we had a home base, and all of a sudden the sheriffs, they were kicking us out. I'm going, what?
I'm glad I had my own apartment.
You did. I'm glad you had your own apartment, too, because that gave me a place to stay when you guys, gave me the gong, and, at least I got to babysit your place down there in the village, man,
Yeah.
That was fun, but I was really distraught after getting fired.
Yeah, that was a bad time.
It was a bad time, man.
Yeah.
Well, back to that hotel that we stayed at, I remember a buddy of mine came down from Vermont, and he knew that we were doing a record. He had heard of the group, and he was originally from Jersey, I guess. And when he came up to the room where we were staying, he looked around and went, "I thought you guys were rich."
Well, everybody...
We're going to be rich.
Everybody thought we were rich. I can't tell you how many people thought that I had huge amounts of money, and and I couldn't.
Oh, me too.
It was weird. It was very weird.
Oh, me too. Everybody thought that, the Capitol Records deal was like, hey, man, I need to, brakes on my Corvette fixed, man, and I go, I can't help you, brother.
All right. Now, Bobby, now you just reminded me of something. Didn't you go out and buy a really expensive suit with some of your money?
I tried to, and they wouldn't pay for it.
They wouldn't pay for it?
A blue iridescent, clamshell sparkle suit or...
No, I'll tell you what it was, man. It was a Continental black wool suit.
I just took the money and ran, man. I said, give me that fuck money. It says Tom Allen on it. Says, that's my money.
Well, when I left, I felt like the jerk because I stole one of Willie's harmonicas, and that's all I ever got out of it.
Well, there you go. I got a drum set out of it.
Remember the movie The Jerk? Remember at the end when he's walking out of his big house? So I just need this, and I need this chair, and I need...
Yeah, right.
That's what...
The only time I really felt like we were rich is when we were in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got treated so well.
Sure felt like it.
I mean, some of those hotels we stayed in were, beautiful.
Yeah.
It was great, man.
Yeah, we traveled in style, that's for sure.
We did, yeah. I'll agree to that.
Yeah. And then when we stayed in L.A., I remember that...
that house?
Yeah.
Pretty cool
that
house,
was...
yeah.
I think that was a whorehouse or something before, It had all those mirrors in some of the rooms and stuff,
Remember who owned it?
Who owned it?
I remember who owned it. The guy that gave up the shot heard around the world.
Bobby Thompson's home run that shot heard around the world.
That's right.
That was the guy who owned that?
Yep.
Holy mackerel.
The pitcher.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Pitcher. It wasn't Bobby Thompson.
Oh, it wasn't Bobby Thompson.
It belonged to the pitcher who gave up the shot heard around the world.
Right.
What's his name?
Ralph Branca.
Ralph Branca?
Yep, Ralph
I got to write that down.
That was his house that we stayed at in L.A.
They had a hot tub at that house, right?
They did.
Yeah. How long were we out there?
Maybe pushing a month.
Felt like a month, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
think
felt
might
like a
have been
month.
In San Francisco or New York or L.A., we were just like the coolest thing walking on 12 feet. And you take it to Fresno or Sacramento, and all they want to hear is AC/DC.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I know.
So
It depends
you
on where
never
you
know,
are.
man. It's a cultural. We were
Yeah.
we had a cult following, man.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember opening up for that California band that was so all dressed in the flowing robes?
Well, I remember we played for deVille, or what was that other band? They were like the Yes Band, but they were an American band.
Sticks. Yeah.
Sticks, yeah.
That was...
Oh, that was a real big fiasco.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the worst gig.
And then there was... I remember another
Or
one...
my kid going, Dad, they're booing you out there.
Well, there was also in St. Louis, what was the name of that group? Not REO Speedwagon.
REO Speedwagon.
No, it was another one like that. It was... it was the same...
Played with Speedwagon, though.
Did we?
We
Yeah.
played with Speedwagon.
Maybe that was the one.
We played with Hall & Oates at the Meriwether Post Pavilion.
I'll tell you...
With the Jay Giles Band, I thought they'd love us. And
They
they
did love it.
they did. The band loved us, but the fans hated us.
Yeah, well, Jay Giles let us. I remember, Bobby Leonard had all his brand new Helpin' Still piano pickups, and nobody knew how to set them up because it was such a technical thing. And the piano player from Jay Giles said, "Just use my shit, man. It's all mic'd up and ready to go."
Yeah, they were nice guys. They were
Great gig, man.
They were nice guys. I remember
they were
that.
nice
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
That was a cool.
Yeah, they were.
That was a cool.
Well, their singer, he really liked us.
Oh yeah, Wolfman. He came. he used to come to like the Rathskeller in Boston and hang out. He loved Mink deVille.
But the tour in England with the Feel Goods was the best.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Which one?
Dr. Feelgood.
Oh yeah, they're good guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always loved the sound over in England too, man.
Well, remember when we were in some coastal town or something? They tore up the seats and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a soccer game going on or something.
I don't know, but all I remember was
We were in a bus, man, and we were all scared as shit.
Was it?
Hey, what was the place
It was
when
probably
we were in
Manchester.
England where we came out and we threw out those plastic jackets and stuff?
Oh, the Mink deVille raincoats, man.
what?
Yeah.
Where was
But
that?
we weren't playing. We were just like there to, I don't know what we were doing there. But I remember the people were going crazy that they grabbed my leg and they stole the silver bracelets I had on my wrist. I mean, they pulled me down and just stole all my stuff. It was weird. I always remember that. But I guess not too well, but
The joys of being in the back row.
I have a question. As a band, what was each of your guys' favorite gig that you thought we played the best at?
my all-time favorite was that Paris gig.
I was just going to say that. That was my favorite also. That was just so... I felt like
It was like a perfect night, no mistakes, no nothing.
But also I remember just feeling like the music was playing itself, you know?
Yeah.
That was a good gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like, I could do no wrong on stage that
Exactly. I felt like I could stop playing the guitar and it would just keep playing. I mean, that's the way I felt. It was just going along so great. Were you with me after that Paris gig when the police came and put us in a
No, they put you.
They put me. Was that just me? Because I threw a champagne glass in the park.
No, that was in London, man.
No, that was Paris. Because I remember it was.
there too?
It was French. I don't think so. I don't know.
You were playing Kick the Can in London, they busted, man. You
Really?
the fucking chicken server.
Well, do
You
you?
don't remember that?
No, but I do remember another thing that happened in London that was really embarrassing. At that hotel, what was that Holiday Inn we were staying at?
Yeah.
There was this guy, he's a famous British, like, folk singer. What the hell was the guy's name? Anyway, I went to the pool, and that folk singer was there. And then I remember I was in the locker room, and he was kind of, like, looking at himself. He had his shirt off, and he was kind of flexing his muscles in the mirror and stuff. And I was thinking, this guy's really weird, you know. And then this woman, what happened was I went into the pool, and he was swimming there, I was swimming there, and then I came out. I left before him. I come out of the locker room, and two cops came and grabbed me, and they said, a woman has accused you of exposing yourself. and
it was probably him.
Well, it turned out, when she saw me, she said, no, that's not the guy. And it turned out to be him, yeah. But... that was pretty embarrassing. All I was thinking was, all I was thinking was, new band comes to England, you know, and it's going to be in the papers.
Danger Ranger out of all of them, man. I thought I was a Danger Ranger. Shit, man, you're fucking incorrigible, man.
I always wondered what that X stand stood for.
Yeah, me too.
I'll tell you what, my favorite gig, as far as playing, was what we did in Toronto.
The El Macambo? Yeah.
I remember the gig, but I don't remember playing it.
That night we played at least 8 to 10 songs that we never ever played before.
Oh, the Macambo gig was great because the Rolling Stones had just played it too.
Oh wait, the Macambo, I remember playing there.
It had those little palm.
Showed up.
Yeah, I remember they had those palm bushes or something.
Yeah, and I had an El Macambo T-shirt, and I had every chick in the world trying to steal that T-shirt from me. Finally had to get rid of it, man. It's like I wore it for years.
So that was one of the gigs where Willie just pulled out stuff out of his book or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. But,
Oh, no, I think I had a million songs.
Would you guys believe this? I have a tape of that show.
You do?
You do?
Yeah.
I'd like to get a copy of that.
Yeah, you better.
I had forgotten about that.
Does that
You better cue that thing up, man.
Does that sound good?
It's a tape. I haven't listened to it in at least over 20 years.
When we were in L.A., you know, there was so much weird stuff happening that I kept thinking to myself, the less you get involved, the safer you're going to be. You know, and I'm just kind of, I mean, because I remember when we got there, it just seemed like we had sort of lost control as a band of our own situation, you know, and that somebody else now was going to be dictating stuff. And I don't remember, though, exactly how that started, you know. I just remember.
I'll tell you how it started.
Yeah.
We were back on Nietzsche's turf around, like, when he was in New York doing the first album, he was like
he was afraid of us, man. He was afraid
of us because he thought we were going to cut his throat, man.
Right.
And then once he got us into L.A. for that second album, he was the man in his own, like, Gold Star studio and all this bullshit. And the first thing he does is drag in, what's his name? Hal Blaine is the first guy he drugged.
Right, yeah.
And Hal Blaine heard me playing my drums. He's going, what the fuck am I doing here? He came up to me and said, what am I doing here? You're fucking great. Hal Blaine told me I was great. Next thing, oh, man, you don't know what you're doing. Well, Lou. Well, we're trying to make a good record here, man. That's okay. You can go on the road with these guys, but right now, like, we're gonna. He was just taking the fuck over, man.
Right.
And he brings in Dr. John. He brings in, like...
You remember the night that Jack sat Willie and us down, and he told Willie, you don't have anything. You don't have enough material to do a record. Willie said, we're going to write this record in the studio like we did the last one. Nietzsche said, no. The record company wants you to do maybe 10 songs, an album a year. You don't have it, and we're not going to do it. And when Willie basically said, I'm going to do it anyway, Nietzsche went, okay, if that's the case, I'm taking over. And that's when he brought everybody in.
You know, now that sounds familiar to me. I forgot about that.
But I know we didn't have any enough of material.
So maybe Nietzsche was the wrong guy, huh?
Oh, Nietzsche tore Willie a new one.
Maybe he was the wrong guy.
Maybe you guys weren't there.
Who was that English guy that wanted to produce this, man?
The guy who did the Stones.
Yeah, that guy. He loved Mink deVille.
Andrew Lou Goldham?
That dude. Yeah.
He did? He did? I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Let's call him up.
Yeah, what the hell happened with that?
He was all over that shit.
We should have done that.
Capitol fired that guy and got Nietzsche, man.
They fired him? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
I thought it was that other guy.
No, it was Andrew. He wanted to do it. He was like the guy with the long hair. Is that Andrew Lou Golden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I remember we were...
Fucking great, man.
Our engineer was going to be Dave Hassinger, who did a bunch of the Stones records. And Hassinger,
producers, man.
I remember thinking, you know, if Hassinger does this record, we're going to get the sound that I wanted to hear on that first record. But then I remember his ears started bleeding. And then he had to drop out, and they got some other guy to engineer it. I remember that very well, because that was a big disappointment for me.
He liked my playing.
He kept it dumb, man.
Yeah, well,
just like a drum.
Hey, but you know that when we were in L.A., Jack Nietzsche came up to that Montecito, and he was talking to me the night before we were going to go go into the studio, and he told me. Goes, I'm thinking of bringing, Tim Drummond in.
Yeah.
And he asked me, what do I think? I said, I think I don't like it,
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, I don't want him here. It's like.
They do this to a lot of groups, especially in L.A., where they bring in session players to do the records. And
that was I think that was the big mistake, is it lost the spirit, it lost the soul, it lost the freshness, it lost the reality, it lost the reality,
Yeah, well, I mean, because there was a...
It lost the truth. It lost the truth of it.
Well, it lost the sound, yeah. I mean, the group...
It lost the truth.
What they really had decided...
It lost the truth of what they were...
we were a real band.
Yeah, what they had decided was that it was Willie and backup music. That's what they had decided.
That wasn't the case, though, man.
Yeah, I know, but that's
the
way they saw it.
Well, here, it could have been different, and I'll tell you how. We paid that DJ out of Boston, a woman, sent her to every radio station with you-know-what as ammo to get us to play our songs, and they expected us to break out of Cleveland with Mixed Up, Shook Up Girl. That was the big plan. When we went into the second record, I think they had already looked at us as like, this really didn't happen the way we thought. What are we going to do with these guys?
That's pretty much it.
Who was star quality, or so they thought at the time. They thought he could go somewhere, but Willie had his own agenda. And Willie didn't really care about the band at that point in time. He was in survival mode.
Well, he also had a lot of people feeding him,
that's all these singers,
Yeah. And
you're the guy.
And he's,
that's the sad part right there, I think.
If a lot of people told me I was God, I'd start believing him at that age also,
and he had Susan pumping his ass, too,
Exactly.
And I always loved Susan. I mean, Susan was always sweet and perfect to me, man. She was always more than gracious to me. Make me a cup of tea and everything,
Yeah.
But when we got to New York, Ruben, I think you can, go along with this one, man. Like she turned into Toots, and I'm going, what the f*** are you doing? It was like
too many drugs.
Let's get back to L.A. for a minute. I just want to. I'm trying to remember now. So they brought in those session guys, and then we also had to deal with Carrie Snodgrass and Jack Nietzsche's ex-wife, right?
That's right. She asked me to go to Tijuana with her one night.
Oh wow!
But I knew that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. Well, actually, it might have been a good idea.
I mean, it might have been, but you know what I mean. Like I thought, this is enough trouble in the studio.
Yeah. I remember two real incidents where I really saw like how Nietzsche could get very nasty, which was...
Is that the night you chased him around? Because I got pissed off at him at that night, too.
Did I chase him around one night?
Yeah.
What happened? I don't remember that.
It was the night Dave Foreman was there.
Yeah.
And he was just like drunk, and he was just saying nasty things, but he'd be going around the room saying it.
Right.
And like when I was sitting there with Dave Foreman talking to him, and he was saying, "Oh, Ruben will do anything Willie tells him to do," and then I was saying, "Shut up, Jack! You don't know what you're talking about." And I mean, I could see the shock look in David's face, because he couldn't believe Jack Nietzsche was like starting, all this writing there.
Yeah.
Remember his wife was there too that night?
Exactly. Well, that's what I saw because I remember him saying something to her about how she wasn't. It wasn't like she wasn't a real woman, but it insinuated that, And I thought, how could you talk to somebody like that? And then there was another time where Willie was singing, was it Guardian Angel? And Toots was just sitting there looking like she was really enjoying it. And Jack Nietzsche says to her, he's not singing about you. He couldn't be singing about you. And I thought, man, this guy is really something.
He could be a nasty guy.
But, I mean, to have to deal with that when you're doing a record,
Yeah.
when you're supposed to be creative.
I stopped going to the studio at one point.
Oh, did you? Yeah. And then he brought in that guy, who was the guy who directed Putney Swope? Robert Downey. Do you remember when he came in? He came in and watched the session one day. I remember that. It was just like it was a madhouse.
I remember Nietzsche saying, "There's an Indian following me around."
No.
What's that?
Oh, he said that a lot. He said, "I got this dream, this waking day."
Oh, that I do remember that now. I do remember that.
Guess what happened? He got together with Buffy St. Marie.
I know.
Yeah. He got together with an Indian and wrote that song and won the Academy Award.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, man. That's Hollywood.
I'm telling you. A bunch of sick geniuses.
Oh, man. You got it. You ever read about Nietzsche's last days?
When he was on Cops?
No, his last days of his life, his last year or two. He really went downhill. I was kind of impressed on the second session there when we were up all night doing Just Your Friends with every available Ken Keltner prop banging against the wall, right? Then he goes home at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and writes a 16-piece string set.
Yeah,
In the frickin' studio at 10 in the morning and doing it.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
I was pretty impressed. And it wasn't that it was difficult stuff, it's just that he kept at it, okay?
Yeah, well, he was a talented guy. He was just crazy.
Yeah, nuts.
You know?
Yeah.
But when you say his last days, there was a guy at EMI where I was working who had done some copy work for Nietzsche, you know, writing notation for him.
Yep.
And he told me, one day he calls me up and he says, I just saw Jack Nietzsche on the show Cops. And Nietzsche was arrested.
Yes.
And he was on... Yeah, he was on that show Cops.
Yep.
They had arrested him, and I think he was drunk, and he was yelling stuff at him or something.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So he really went downhill.
So much that happened out there in California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That second time, it was just, you know, by the time the record was over, I was just thoroughly disgusted. If you remember, I erased a lot of my tracks.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, because I don't remember you doing that. And what happened? Did you make new ones or what?
No. I was just dissatisfied with what was there. It didn't add anything. I just had him erase them. There's a lot of stuff still on there, but I erased the stuff I didn't like. The way Nietzsche arranged the first record, put all the parts together with the overdubs, was really good. He didn't do any of that. It's all fucking Dixieland as far as I was concerned. Actually, the second album is in most places, a lot more raw than the first one. It's harder. And, you know, I really enjoyed doing the full stuff in the first record, and I didn't really care that we were going there in the second record, except it just didn't seem to be us. Well, we were put up in that other motel that...
Chelsea?
No, in L.A. The first one we were in was a real modern one.
Yeah, that
where like Louis hooked up with like.
Oh yeah, where all the stars.
Yeah.
That was.
I forget what it was called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and it had a pool.
He hooked up with Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
That's right. Taj was sitting by the swimming pool. You remember that? And he had that guitar that had it was a weird guitar.
Yeah, it was sitting by the
yeah
on a guitar.
That's right. But it was the strange guitar. It was a weird tuning and these big strings on it. I remember.
It was going bam bam.
Yeah.
Bam bam bam.
Yeah, he was good. Boy, he was real good.
He was a lot bigger than I thought he was.
Oh, he's a huge guy. Yeah.
He was a big guy.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Taj Mahal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he was a big guy. I remember that day. Don't you, Louis?
Yeah. Well, because I was a
Right, sunny day in L.A. and like Louis, you were kind of beside yourself, going, "Wow, it's fucking Taj Mahal, man."
Well, I was a huge fan of his.
And that was like one of the first things. It was like almost going to Disneyland and seeing Mickey Mouse and the Cosmos
Right.
for the first time.
Right.
You're like, holy shit, man! We're in L.A. and there's Taj Mahal by the same pool that I'm swimming in, and like, here's my idol, and he's talking to me. What the fuck,
Yeah,
man?
it was great. That was great.
It was great, man.
That we stayed there. I think we had a New Year's Eve gig or something, wasn't it, or something
Yeah,
like
then
that?
we
Yeah.
played
Santa
Hey, what was that
Santa
gig,
Monica Civic Auditorium.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
On New Year's
What was
Eve.
the gig where Bonnie Raitt was coming on to Louis?
Yeah, I have pictures of that actually. That was at the Civic Center too. And I'm an idiot because she gave me a telephone number and I never called her.
Wow.
That was a missed opportunity.
I was
Imagine playing bottleneck guitar with like.
man, I was stupid. I have a picture.
Well, you could have been the Blues Kings and Queens.
Yeah,
Huh?
I was a real dumb. I was an idiot.
It could have been double slides there.
Double slide.
Easy slider.
Sliding in the
Easy
dark.
slider. They had-
Sliding so slidey, you can't slide
Yeah.
no more. You guys are killing me, man.
Yeah. I think that I probably got about 10 minutes of radio-worthy stuff.
Yeah, probably.
but it's
That's why we should do it again.
Yeah.
Just have to play a lot of music.
yeah.
At least give you half an hour